Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. It feels so good to be back and filming again. I just want to thank you guys so much for being so understanding. I have been very MIA and I think over these past few months I've been in a really depressive state and I think it kind of all built up and overwhelming to say the least. I had actually been in a grieving period as well. I unfortunately lost my grandmother, so it was kind of a harder personal time I needed to take away from this channel. I think also this is very American centric for me to say, but with the election as well I had a little bit of anxiety, so I think now I'm starting to feel a little bit more hopeful in a lot of regards of my life and especially the future. So I wanted to definitely join into the booktube community again and make some more videos because I missed you guys so much. So specifically, I had not really been reading at all in October. I only really read the end of October. So I'm going to be reflecting on my recent reads over the past few months. So the last wrap up I did was in July. So I'm going to be talking about my August, September, and October reads, and I'm going to be ranking them. So I read a lot of great books these past few months, and I read at least one of my least favorite books I've read so far this year, these past few months. So I'm excited to kind of rank and do a little bit of mini reviews for the reads that I read recently. So if you want to see that, just keep on watching. So I'm going to start best to worst. I've done it before when I've done worst to best for other kind of like ranking recent reads I've done. So I don't know if you guys like it best to worst or worst to best. Let me know if you want me to do more of these instead of like monthly wrap-up videos. I feel like just because sometimes depending on the month I'm not really reading a ton of books, it doesn't make sense to just do an entire month's wrap-up. So the first book I'm going to mention is one of my favorite books I read this year because it's a sequel to one of my favorite books I've also read this year, which is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the second book, a part of the From Blood and Ashes series from Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I absolutely loved it. I know a lot of people said this was a disappointing second book to them because they said especially the world building and it was a lot of filler, but I ate this shit up. I stayed up until like 5 a.m. to finish this book. It was so good. Some of the scenes, like Chef's kiss, the smuttiness was so good. I really enjoy these characters. I'm really enjoying the different world aspects we're getting into this sequel compared to the first book. I think we're delving more into different ideals and fantastical elements, which is really enjoyable to me. There's something about Jennifer L. Armentrout that I eat up. Like ever since I first started the Lux series back in like 2011, 2012, years ago, I have been obsessed with her, and continually I know like if I pick up her book, I'm going to love something about it, especially her characters. So I absolutely love this sequel. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I'm going to be having this and From Blood and Ashes, a book review for both books, up on my channel sometime this month. I think I mentioned it in a few videos back, but I want to do a review week, and since I kind of was MIA in October, I didn't get to that, so I'm going to be having a review week in November, and these are definitely books that I want to do an entire like discussion video about and really discuss with you guys because I have so many thoughts when it comes to this series. I think someone said it's actually going to be a 4-book series or maybe a trilogy. I have to double check, but whatever it is, I'm into. I love it. I can't wait for more in this series. Another amazing series for me is the Gilded Wolves trilogy from Roshani Chokshi. So the first book is the Gilded Wolves and the second is the Silvered Serpents. I have an entire vlog where I actually read both of these books and kind of discuss it, and I did a meet and greet, and I got to kind of do a FaceTime Zoom thing with a bunch of other people, and Holly Black moderated a Q&A with her, and it was just amazing. Like I absolutely loved that entire like 2-day process. I think it was more than 2 days, like 3-day process, but it was so much fun to be able to finally enjoy these books because she's one of my all-time favorite authors. The Star-Stitched Queen and A Crown of Wishes are two of my favorite standalone novels of all time, and A Crown of Wishes specifically is one of my all-time favorite books. So I absolutely adored these two. I think Gilded Wolves give me more life and vibrancy, while the Silvered Serpents is almost a reborn. I don't want to spoil anything. If you specifically read the Gilded Wolves, you know how the ending is, and I think specifically the tone development between these two books is really fantastic. I think how she delves into the second book specifically is unreal. Like this second book is so good. I gave it a 5 out of 5, and the Gilded Wolves, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I didn't really get into this book immediately. It took me a little bit to actually develop into the world and the characters. This is a historical fantasy. We follow multiple different characters, which I absolutely adore these characters. And her writing style is flawless to me. Like, there is just something so poetic and mesmerizing about how she just weaves her words that has me on edge every single time. So not only did I love these characters, but the whole historical fantastical elements involved is really, really cool as well. Yet again, highly recommend to check out that vlog. I talk way more about these books. Next two books I have are part of the same trilogy, and technically I read the third book at the beginning of this month, so I can't talk about it in this recent wrap up, but I love this entire trilogy and I highly recommend it. I binged it and it was so good. So the first book is called Blood Trial. It's from Kelly St. Clair, and this is the first book, a part of the Vampire Tower series, which is a part of a bigger series that Kelly St. Clair is coming out with, which is called the Supernatural Battle. So basically, this is about vampires, and how it is we follow our main character, who is from a very elite family. She lives a very privileged life, and she wants to leave that lifestyle behind because she realizes she doesn't really know how to be human. She's been consistently kind of raised in this very privileged elite status, and she's so sick of those people in that lifestyle, and she wants to kind of live her life and find individuality in that. So she meets her friend Tommy, or meets up with her friend Tommy, excuse me, and Tommy is from a very working class family, has always done everything for herself and built herself up. So she kind of gets advice from Tommy and ends up applying for jobs, and that's how she gets involved in this Vampire Tower business. So basically what I loved most about this series is it is a new adult paranormal one, which you guys know I love. I think I'm going to do an entire like paranormal recommendation video because that's my favorite genre. We follow our main character as she's yet again applying for this job, and she kind of notices a little bit of suspicious activity when it comes to the receptionist per se, and how she actually physically and emotionally kind of is present. So she ends up realizing they're all vampires, and basically the vampires in this world are battling other clans, and they are fighting real life Monopoly but using actual cities and actual houses where people live. So it is so addictive. I think what made this series so fun is we have our character development and our romantic relationship and different inner relationships with that, whether it be friendships and such. But what made it so fun was the whole Monopoly aspect as well, the real life game and the tension that came from that, and reading each book and progressing as one clan, if they win the entire game, the other clan, all members basically die except for 2 or 3 people. So it's a very life or death situation, and our main character happens to find herself in the middle of it because she stumbles upon the life and the likelihood of vampires. So I really enjoyed this. There were great smutty scenes, I can't speak, and there is a little bit of like an alpha male personality in here, which tends to turn me off. But with this specifically, they explain it so well with the different elements. It's not a insta love situation, but it is a instant lust situation because of a paranormal element that involves the vampires. So I don't want to like spoil anything, but I have to say this definitely hate to lust that turns to love. I think funny enough, this series came at such a specific time in my life. The second book is called Vampire Debt, and specifically in that one we see a lot of grief that is mentioned from our main character. I'm not going to say how or why, but I could really relate to that, and there were moments that I was crying because I felt like what she was feeling was also what I was feeling because I was dealing with grief as well. So I really recommend this series yet again. I think it was a lot of fun. The first book, the first 2 chapters are not the best, but it really gets going once she kind of gets involved with the job, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. The next book I have is actually contemporary, which I feel like over these past few months / year, it's been really hard for me to find contemporaries that I can actually get into, especially with everything going on in the present. Not that they don't feel real to me, but it's just not the same as it once was. So that's why I feel like I've been so much more into fantasy and paranormal, just because, not that they're not real, but I can just kind of focus on that more. So this is a contemporary that I absolutely loved. It's Radio Silence from Alice Oseman, and this was the Krusty Club's pick for August. I'm so glad I picked this up. It was one of my favorite books so far this year, and it was a contemporary that I feel like not only is it just a good book, but sometimes I feel like people don't really love contemporaries. And I do. I've always loved a good contemporary book, but this is one of those contemporaries that make me love the genre so much. So what I think I loved was our characters, the writing style, and the story itself. So I don't want to say too much. I really did go into this book blind. Like, I had no idea really what this was about, especially just picking it up for the Crusty Club pick, but I grabbed it and could not put it down, and I really wanted to actually get a physical copy of this because I really loved it that much. I was nervous at first because the voice itself almost seemed too young adult for me when we first started off, but then once we get into it and really dive into the different array of even side characters as well and the inner relationships that involve with that, I fell in love with it, and I just felt so vulnerable with these characters. I felt for these characters, and I really want to pick up other books from Alice Oseman because her writing style just really grabbed me and held me on the entire way through the story. Next, I have Fable from Adrienne Young. I read this August, September. I was supposed to do an entire like arc reading vlog, and I actually did film some of it, but I didn't actually end up finishing it because I got into like a reading slump kind of period. Anyway, Fable. So I really did enjoy this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. At first I gave this a 4.5 and then I changed it to a 4 out of 5. So I'll explain myself. Basically, I love everything that has to do with pirates, and this was a book that I had on my radar because it is a pirate novel. We follow our main character, who is 17 years old. She's been abandoned on this island by her father, and for years she is seeking sort of vengeance and retribution for being left behind, so she's been trying to earn her way off the island. So an event kind of catapults her into actually getting off of the island, and one of my favorite things actually about this story was Adrienne Young's depiction of sea life and the piracy elements. There's also a little bit of a fantastical element that is involved with our main character that I really enjoyed because it kind of made it very unique. I did like the voice of our main character. I felt like I really wanted more from our side characters, and I felt like the romance itself was a little bit kind of like fastly developed. Like, I felt like we didn't really get a lot of developing scenes with them. I understood time sequence wise they had been in each other's lives for years, but it didn't really seem something that, you know, at the end I was there for. But we shall see. I really did like the ending of this book, to say the least. It definitely has me wanting the sequel, which I think the second book actually comes out at the beginning of 2021, so I don't have to wait too long. But for a pirate book, young adult, I really did enjoy this one. The next book I have, I also read a part of that like arc reading vlog, and this is You Had Me At Ola, and this is from Alexis, Daria. So I was super excited for this one. We follow two main characters. It is a new adult, more contemporary romance, and it involves soap opera. I love myself kind of like famous celebrity in certain contemporary books. I've read others that I really enjoy, and I was just really looking forward to this one, and unfortunately I did think it fell flat. Like, some smutty scenes I was here for, but overall the development when it came to the individual characters and the overall romantic relationship was not my favorite. I did actually enjoy other relationship dynamics, like the familiar relationships and even friendship dynamics, but the main romantic relationship wasn't my favorite, and I don't know, like it was so hard for me because I thought this was going to be one that I absolutely loved, and it was one that I think fell very flat. So I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars, and I have seen other people either really love it or kind of like me where they think their expectations were way too high for it. So I would love to hear if you have read it and what your thoughts are, but I was definitely disappointed with this one. 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't something that I hated or wouldn't recommend, but it definitely was something that I definitely think fell a little flat. The next book I have, I was also not disappointed in, but was expecting something different from. So this is Such a Fun Age, and this is from Kiley, Reid. This was the August pick from the Unfriendly Black Hotties Club. I was expecting something different. I think especially because of the summary, I thought it was going to go in a specific way and it went in a completely opposite way. We do talk about like performative activism and white savior complex in this novel. Like those are definitely highlighted and featured, and I think I would still recommend this book, but it had a lot of like drama compared to what I was expecting, and I think essentially it was just very different from what I thought. The ending itself also I didn't love. It was a very quick read. Like I think I read this in a day's time, which yet again is pretty good for me, kind of struggling to even finish one book in a week's time, let alone in a day. So I thought it was a very quick read, and I think it definitely highlights themes that are important, but it was different than what I was expecting. So this I also gave a 3.5. I think I just said I gave You Had Me At Ola a 3 out of 5 stars, but I gave that a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So both of these were 3.5 out of 5 stars, and both were ones that I thought I was going to get one story from, but I got a kind of another story from almost. So it wasn't that it was a bad book, but it was just very different than what I thought I was going to get from the summary. So I still would recommend it if you're interested in it. Yet again, I think the themes that are highlighted, it's a very quick, easy to get into story. Next, I have The Wedding Date Disaster, and this is from Avery Flynn. So I also gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. We have another more new adult contemporary romance, and I really enjoyed this one. So it is a little bit of a enemies to lover, hate to love romance. I'm gonna say more enemies to lovers because they actually refer to each other as their enemy. So we follow our two main characters, female and male, and our female main character has been in love with the male main character's twin, and basically that twin is supposed to go with her to her hometown in Nebraska for a wedding, and he ends up falling out, so the enemy twin goes in his place, and they have to kind of fake a date in front of the family. So I eat that shit up. I love fake dating and all that vibe, so I really enjoyed it. I also love the different sort of aspects when it came to the familial relationships when it comes to our main character, female main character, and even the male main character, how he reflects on his own lifestyle from seeing the female main character's family. So I enjoyed that. I think the last 60 pages really broke it for me because I hate the kind of trope where things are going well and then something happens and they go back and then it ends up turning into a happily ever after afterwards. So it just felt very like predictable at that point to me, but overall I really enjoyed it because I really enjoyed our two characters. It was really the 60 pages that the one male character specifically pissed me the fuck off. So it was just a good, enjoyable one. I read it in a few hours at the beach, and I remember just eating it up yet again, and it stood out to me because I've been yet again struggling to pick up one book, let alone actually getting to finish one in a few hours. So I was really happy to get this sent my way. And then the last book I have is the book I was talking about in the beginning that I absolutely hated, and that is Follow Me Darkly by Helen Hardin. So basically this is the first book part of a trilogy or duology, I can't remember which one it is, and this is a new adult erotica romance. There's a ton of smut in here, so if you're basically looking for just smut, definitely pick it up. Page 4, the love interest and the main character end up meeting, and by page 6, he's like, I wanna fuck you. So I'm not here for that. Like, I like a build. Like, I like a build up. Or if we're gonna have that attitude, it has to be our main character fighting for it or against it more to me. So it was just too instantaneous. Like, this is insta lust at its finest. I think I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars or a 1.5 out of 5 stars. I really did not enjoy it. I didn't care for either of these characters. I thought they were very flat, especially our love interest. I could not give two fucks about him. Like, I really didn't care. There's a whole mystery dynamic when it involves our main character's boss and the love interest having a previous relationship, and like a lot of like implyment there, and I really didn't care. Like, I felt like they kept dragging it on. I was like, I still don't care about it. Like, whatever it is, obviously our main character doesn't care because she's fucking him anyway, so what is the big deal? I think some smutty scenes were okay. It's not my favorite that I read, but this definitely does give me that 50 Shades vibe. Kind of, but not really. Not like as abusive and mentally manipulating, but borderline still insta-lusty. There was a comment made by our main character in regards to her boss, and I think I talked about it in my last haul, and I cannot find it for the life of me. I know I've read it, so I just need to really like reread this book and find it again. It was basically talking about the boss having an eating disorder, implying that. And I hated the way it was worded. I also hate how books have it where our main character hates on other girls. I can't stand that shit. It bothers me. I feel like growing up I used to see that all the time, and I think we're all continually over it. Like, I will never look at a girl and be like, ew, I hate how she is because of the way she looks. Like, that is disgusting. I hate that kind of attitude and vibe, especially from main character where we're in her voice and head. It bothers me. So she basically has that towards her boss, and she made a comment in regards to her boss and implying that her boss had bulimia. And as someone that used to have an eating disorder, it was very triggering the way it was worded. So I had to figure out what page it is. It's going to bother me. It was like 2 or 3 sentences, but it was enough for me to be like, wait, you really are going to drop that bomb and then continue on that I didn't notice? Anyway, so I just really did not enjoy this one. If you're looking for smut, pick it up, but I think there are way better ones on this list even, like the Vampire Tower series that has way better smuttier scenes than any in this book, and this is an erotica, so says volumes. Anyway, that is me ranking my recent reads. Thank you guys so much for watching. I cannot believe it has been so long since I've done an outro. It's like, how do I even wrap up a video? But I have a ton more videos coming out soon. I think I'm gonna start a filming schedule Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I think the next video I have will be Friday, and it's actually going to be a book unboxing for a subscription box, the unplugged one, because I got this sent. And then I think Monday I'm going to have a October/birthday book haul, and then hopefully I'll be done kind of hauling. I also just bought a cart because I want to do a TBR cart. I see so many people have it, and I was like, you know what, I finally need to do it because I have a stack of books in my closets and a lot of them are on my TBR. So I want to set up a cart. I want to do that. I'm going to do that for an entire video, and I have so much other things coming out soon. Like I said, my review week I want to do, so definitely stay subscribed if you aren't already. Like this video, comment down below, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!